everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. At the outset, I'd like to say thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm truly grateful to be over here. I'm a mother of 2 kids, and by virtue of that, my every day is flooded with numerous questions which come my way. Innocent and interesting questions from curious minds. Questions like, why should I go to school? Why are ants so small? Or why is the sky blue? When will daddy come home? Or even sometimes, when will you order a pizza? I'm sure this is just not my journey. Every single one of us on a daily basis is flooded and floored with numerous questions which come our way. From why, when, how, what, why me, why now? Questions just keep coming on and on and on. If I had a look at questions in a more holistic perspective, there are some questions which are fairly insignificant, and some questions can be very, very significant in our lives. If I had to plot a simple matrix on the many types of questions which come our way, some of them are fairly mundane, like I said, and some of them are very, very significant. The point is, who asks these questions makes all the difference. So if other people ask you the question, or do you ask the question yourself? What I believe is that the most powerful questions are the ones that you ask yourself. What exactly do I mean by powerful questions? Very simply put, it is questions which inspire action, which are personally relevant to you, and which have a boundary. Why is the boundary important? It simply defines the space with which you can operate in. So let's just say you aspire to change the world. It's a very lofty ambition to have, and it's great, but over a period of time, it becomes extremely difficult for you to show the impact and outcome of that change. Let's just say you reframe the question and say, how can I use technology to make an everyday task simpler, efficient, and better? It could be communication, it could be cooking, or it could be driving. Or you ask yourself, how can I scale my business to generate more employment in the world? Or maybe even, how can I do a simple random deed today to bring a smile on someone's face I know? Those questions have the potential to be powerful and be the start of a positive change in lives. By a show of hands, I'd like to know how many of you believe that question is very powerful and can be a start of a positive change. Wonderful. That's exactly what I'm going to talk about. The power of a question and how questions have been instrumental in saving a life and even making a life. I'm going to narrate some personal real-life examples when the question has made all the difference in my life. This was the summer of 2007. My husband and me were working abroad, and it was a normal, insignificant day when we woke up. Very soon, it turned out to be the most significant day of my life because we heard news that my father had to be hospitalized, and they had diagnosed an underlying heart and a kidney problem. I was shocked when I heard this news. This was not something that I had even imagined in my wildest of dreams. I had more questions at that time. Why did this happen? How did this happen? What were the doctors planning to do? And what is the next course of action? Unfortunately, I didn't get answers at that time because the doctors and the treating doctors and the medical staff were trying to figure out what they need to do. Unfortunately, things didn't go very well over the next few days, and I was advised by the treating doctors to fly back. The journey back home was probably one of the most difficult ones in my life. I went straight from the airport to the hospital to meet my father. He was overjoyed to see me. But I had mixed emotions. I was very sad, and I felt really bad to see him helpless in the hospital bed. But there was also hope that things can only get better from here. During the course of the next few days, I interacted with all the treating doctors and medical staff to figure out what exactly was the situation. The fact was that it was a complicated medical case, and I think the most unnerving and worrying thing for my family was the fact that the doctors were divided in their opinion of the next course of treatment. There were some who felt that we needed to go for immediate surgery, and there were some who felt that it was wise to take a more conservative approach and wait and watch in terms of what needed to be done next. I remember one specific discussion when someone told me that the decisions we make will affect my father's life forever. And trust me, that's enormous. You know, when the decisions or the choices that you make on the course of medical treatment will affect your father's life, it's not easy to be in that position. It was really, really hard, and the time was running out, so we had to choose. So it was during one of those low moments that I asked myself a single question. I asked myself, what can I do to help make the decision on the next course of treatment? The minute I asked myself that question, everything changed. I figured that the need of the hour was really to get alternate expert medical opinions from doctors so that we were equipped to make a judicious decision. I reached out to friends in my network and the references started pouring in. Every named doctor or reference that I came to know of, I called them, I mailed them, I reached out to them. Fortunately for me, they all were willing to give me a ear. But after the initial few conversations, I somehow felt that the doctors were giving me a very myopic and short-term view of what needed to be done. But for a chronic problem, it's extremely important to take a long-term holistic view of the situation. So I wondered whether I was asking the right question. I would narrate the entire medical case and then I would end with, what do you advise? That just wasn't working. So I reframed the question. I would recount the entire case history and I would end with looking straight in the eyes of the doctor and I would ask him, what would you do if it was your father? And that changed everything. Because that's when we started getting a very different perspective to the whole case. And it was very easy to make the decision because almost every single person recommended not to go in for surgery at that point of time. Fortunately for my father, that was probably the best decision that we made in his life. And by the grace of God, he recovered, he started slowly recovering and he was back home. Why was this question so important and why did it make so much of a difference? Simply because it inspired action, it was personally relevant and it had a boundary in which we could operate. They say that you learn the most about yourself, people around you, life and the world at large in the face of life, death and any kind of crisis or adversity. That could be medical, financial, a relationship or even careers. The next story that I'm going to tell you was one such thing. It was in the fall of 2010 and it was when I became a mother. Being a mother is an intense experience and I must say there is nothing in the world which comes as close to that. It defines you, it inspires you, it tests you in every which way that you can never even imagine. The initial few days of motherhood can be isolating, physically very, very taxing, tending to the needs of a newborn child, and emotionally you experience intense highs and lows which you never even knew you had existed. While it was amazingly fulfilling to be a mother, personally there was a void on some aspects of my life because as an individual I thrive on intellectual stimulation, but that was just not coming through. For a very long time I kept thinking to myself that life has changed and life has probably changed forever. But then I asked myself a different question. I said, how can I do something from within the four walls, which is probably intellectually stimulating and also gives me an opportunity to connect socially with the world? The minute I asked myself that question, I started exploring options and possibilities, and I found my answer in the world of writing. So writing was a wonderful outlet through my blogs. It was a wonderful canvas for my ideas, thoughts, expressions, perspectives, poetry, and there was no looking back after that. So initially I used to write just for myself, but with time I shared it with a few trusted friends and family. And every single person recommended that I go public, and rest is history. As it progressed on my writing journey, I just felt after some time it was important to expand the reach of my writings. So I asked myself the next question, what can I do to expand the reach of my writings? And that is when I took severely into guest blogging. So guest blogging is like the guest appearance in the movies where you go to an established publication platform and you can share your voice and views on topics of interest and they publish you. By virtue of me exploring actively guest blogging, I've been featured in the EconomicTimes and Huffingtonpost and multiple other global publications. With time, I became more sure of my writings and my words, and I then asked myself a new question. how can I use my writings to support initiatives or causes that I believe in? And one of them was women at work. As a working woman, I've been through the 3M madness, as I call it, which is an MBA, marriage, and motherhood. And I felt I had significant amount of insights, experiences, and perspectives which could benefit a lot of women who are starting off their career paths. So even to this day, the most satisfying moments as a writer are those when people write back to me and they say that they have really enjoyed what I have written. I always say that I gave birth to my child, but she gave birth to the writer in me. I gave birth to my second child, and she gave birth to new dreams in me. In fact, one of my dreams has been to speak at TEDx, and it's just happened. The journey has evolved over the last few months, thanks to me dreaming new dreams. If I again look at why did this happen to me, it was simply because of the questions that I've asked myself along the way. The questions which inspired action, the questions which were personally relevant, and questions which had a boundary in which I could operate. Why did I narrate these two episodes of my life? Simply because the moment it all came together for me in my life was when I asked myself the right questions, the powerful questions, and the questions which inspired action. Beyond this, if I look at other aspects of my own life, it would be fair to say that every single time I have got the question right, there has been a definite path towards progress in whatever sphere of life that I may look at. So if I look at health and wellness, every single time that I've asked myself the right question, I have achieved whatever goals I've set for myself. If I look at personal finance, it's been no different. Every single time that I've asked a personally relevant question, which has inspired action with a definite boundary, again, there has been progress. Raising kids is no different either. My daughter used to cry every single day to go to school when she started her school. The minute I asked myself a question, how can I create a structure or a routine for her so that she goes happily to school, things started falling in line. Or even running home. So another wonderful example that I always like to share over here is, as a person, I honestly believe there's nothing like home-cooked food for most of us for investing in our health. But I also believe that it's a beautiful world out there and there are so many things to explore. So I never feel that you should be spending more than an hour a day in running your kitchen. The minute I asked myself the question, how can I ensure that I create a balanced home-cooked meal for the family in an hour, I started finding productivity hacks, tools, and efficient ways of running kitchen operations. So it all starts with a question, it's all powered with a question, and the question makes all the difference. If I look around me, it's no different either. People who dealt with weight issues, relationship issues, building businesses, or even careers, every single time they've got the question right, they have definitely made progress in whatever sphere of life they intend to do. So someone I know was going through a bad medical crisis, and the minute he asked himself the question, what can I do to be a better living example to my children, he found the answer in terms of how he needs to conduct his life, and he made the required lifestyle changes. If I look at the world at large, be it the movies, be it businesses, be it homes, or even if you look at the body of work at TED, it would be fair to say that there has been a single defining question which has changed the career trajectories or lives of people at large. I believe in the power of questions, simply because questions compel you to think, inspire you to act, and catalyze learning and growth. And all three of them are extremely important in the journey of life. Whether you're a student, a teacher, an entrepreneur, a photographer, a CEO, a comedian, a researcher, a writer, a poet, no matter who you are, what you do, what sphere of life you are from, where you are, and where you're headed, it doesn't matter. I truly believe you can change your life using the magical power of a single question. So if this is you today, and this is where you aspire to be, what is your question? I urge you to think about it. Thank you.